Hey, here with TheEZGZ. Here out in the garage. We're kind of looking at Rusty. Running pretty good. Been having a lot of fun with it. And thinking about making some changes. Always got to change things. Always got to make things better, don't we? Who put these on? Oh. No job is complete until you bleed.
The traditional blood offering. Got carburetor mounted, linkage on. Passenger side carburetor, note the little overflow tube for the breather. My new fuel supply. Pressure regulator for the gasoline.
Alright, it's the next day. Now what are we up to? Oh my gosh, what looks different here? You see anything looking different? How about dual Cadron carburetors? Now these were originally manufactured specifically with the Volkswagen engine and the Volkswagen engine compartment in mind. They have a fantastic record behind them as being a nice setup and working well. Not the top of the line performance, but definitely a huge step up from the stock setup. No longer have to worry about the heat riser and the center mount intake manifold. Only issue with these things probably in my mind is more carburetor linkage, and you got dual carburetors. Less prone to dirt clogging up an idle jet like the IDF Webers and the Delordos, the DRLA Delordos. So that remains to be seen. And I put them in yesterday, took it for a drive, and it was just phenomenal how much of a difference it made. It didn't feel quite as smooth as the dual throat carburetors, but it had a little bit of roughness in them, and actually in certain conditions it started running horribly, and I didn't have time to look at it, and the engine was hot, so we delayed that. Made a few changes. I tried to eliminate some of my rubber fuel line. I used a brake line fitting off the back of a Volkswagen and some brake line, all this stuff that I just had laying around, and I eliminated some hose. I ran a short piece of connecting hose here. You can see how I did this to get rid of the stored pressure that's in that rubber fuel line. The Delordo carburetors have the drip in them. That kind of is a common thing that started happening years ago, and it's not that big of a deal if you're on the highway going on long jaunts, but if you're stop and go going on errands, it's horrible for your engine, and I'll leave it at that. So it just drips down the carburetor after you shut the car off until that pressure is relieved, and it washes away the oil on the cylinders, and it just messes up your rings. So this morning I checked my fuel pressure, and I also pulled the spark plugs, found one bad spark plug. Here's just a quick example. Here's the one out of number 2 cylinder, which looks pretty normal, looks pretty good. And then here's one out of number 1 cylinder, not quite so good. So I think this was my problem. I think it was fouling out, and I'm gonna have to, I put some used spark plugs in, and I'm gonna see if I can chase them. These have longer spark plug threads because these are 40 by 35 valves, and both the front cylinders had that backed up dark look to them because I'm running heater boxes with too big of valves. Not high compression, but too big of valves, and it runs 75 degrees hotter on that front cylinders than it does this side with the exhaust and the header. So those are going to come off before I'm finished with all my testing here, and it's summertime. So I'm going to be taking this engine down to fix an oil leak and also probably put stock valve heads on it. So it won't be an issue, and I can have my heater boxes back on. Now, what else have we done? Oh, with this type of carburation setup, Cadrin actually provided a crankcase ventilation tie in here to this carburetor. There's a tube that goes partially down the throat. Now, if you're going to use the old style tube like this, drain tube, be sure and put the little rubber check valve on the end of this. There's a little tapered thing. Now, as the oil vapor comes up and has to turn the corners, some of the oil will hang there, and so you're not sucking oil in your carburetors, but you are getting crankcase vapors into that carburetor, kind of a little emissions type thing. We're all for that. We're getting tired of seeing the brown cloud. It's creeping into my area as well. But if you don't put the little check valve on the end with the Cadrin setup, you could be sucking dirt from down below by the road. And this is a Baja. I do use it in the dirt. Now, I also had to go back to the mechanical 009 distributor with this setup. And so we're going to do a cold start this morning and see how she runs. Always changing things, always looking for a better setup. That's what I enjoy doing, driving 55-year-old cars with a little bit of a modified engine. You know, just want to see what she'll do. Had it in about 4 months now. Probably got 4,000 or 5,000 miles on it, and it's my daily ride. So, alrighty, do a little cold start here on a warm summer day. A little bit of a rough idle, no chokes, like I said. With an air-cooled engine, it's always good to let them warm up. Having to pump the throttle a little bit here. Fair job of synchronizing the carburetors. Okay, come up to a stop sign at the end of the street. The center mount 44 IDF would take farther than I'm driving where it would even idle. It would die. At least this thing's got a nice slow idle. And let's see. No hesitation on takeoff. I didn't expect any. I did go for a little drive yesterday, and like I said, I had some issues that seemed like right in the mid-range. I'm not sure what was going on, but this morning I had fresh enthusiasm and the engine was cold, and I found a bad spark plug, so I put some new plugs in it. Check the fuel pressure. Okay, so you know, we can drive for miles, but that's kind of boring. I think I've got to do some further testing. It's going to take me a few weeks to run enough fuel here to really establish how much better fuel mileage or worse. There's almost $5,000. So we'll see. I really thought that IDF Weber was cool, but I'm not racing. Nothing better than the dual port-on-port carbs, but when you do have a problem, man, it's irritating to locate it and fix it, especially in an engine compartment, even a half engine compartment on this Baja. So, first impressions, not necessarily with Kadron carburetors, they've always been good as they say. But on this particular engine with my application for going to the grocery store and routine daily stuff, it has a smoother bottom end for short distance and cruising and messing around 2,000 RPM. The IDF single mount Weber is a fine carburetor, but it's probably more geared to getting with the program more of the time. On the highway, really doesn't make any difference because you're going at constant speed, and all of them run similar. And I guess we'll find out in a few tanks how this one shapes up as far as fuel mileage and stuff. So we'll keep you posted on that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subbing. TheEZGZ putting on the feed bag and out.